Welcome to Insights in Sound, where we talk to the people behind the scenes, behind the technology, and behind the music. People you may not know, but you should. And please check out insightsinsound.com for a full list of our podcasts and YouTube series. Insights in Sound is made possible with the support of our friends OBSBot, Roland, AEA Ribbon Mics, Session Wire.
I'm here with Robert Margouleff at East West Studios. Robert's got a memoir coming out very soon called Shaping Sounds. For those of our viewers who don't know, Robert's history dates back to, well, we start with TONTO's expanding Headband, and then we move into a lot of work with Stevie Wonder, with Devo, with Oingo Boingo. So we're going to walk through a few photos and a few little recollections of the past, and then we're going to catch up and basically talk about what you're doing now at the ripe age of 85 and still have...
Right, I'll tell you that. I ripen as we speak.
Oh, well, I'll back up then.
Yeah.
So I had this wonderful headshot of you here, which I think is really, really great.
Yeah,
and then
good one.
One of the things that you and I talked about the last time we did an interview was that you had actually started out as a youngster, as a choir boy and a cellist.
5th grade. Yeah, I was making my way to 6th grade, and that picture is kind of unique. It's me standing on the boardwalk at Atlantic City, and we're there at a music teachers convention, and the Kensington School Orchestra, of which I was the second chair of the cello section. I mean, that orchestra, when we started playing, your teeth could fall out easily. It was something else. But I love playing the cello. My sister, who's, I guess, 7 years older than I am, she's still kicking around, by the way, 94 years old now, was at Juilliard during that time when I was growing up, and I got my cello.
I love it.
And she would play the piano, and I would play the cello, and we would play together. And she says my ears used to turn bright red from the excitement. There I am on the boardwalk in my little orchestra uniform, my little white suit with the bow tie.
With a little dab of Brill cream,
yeah,
I see.
Dab of Brill cream would do me. Glaring into the sun with my cello under my shoulder. I thought I was destined to become a cellist, but I never really was able to find my voice. I went through piano, took piano lessons and everything else. I mean, even as a little boy, when I was like 15 or 16, there was a guy down the block, Gordon Radio. He had a radio store and an air conditioning place. But he had a lot of old loudspeakers around, and I ended up putting loudspeakers under all the furniture in our living room and in the piano room and in the dining room. And I would play Tchaikovsky and Rachmaninoff, and the music would come out from under the chairs. Of course, it was completely jury-rigged and kind of silly. But there I was in my first days, still playing with wires and sound, and here we are, still playing with wires and sound.
You invented the subwoofer.
Huh?
You invented the subwoofer.
Yeah, you might say I invented the subwoofer. But I've always enjoyed recorded music, and it really started with that. It really started with playing the cello, and then I got my sister's piano teacher, Mr. Grain. He was a very interesting old man. He could sit at the piano backwards with his back to the piano and put his hands behind him like this and play the piano
I love
in
it.
reverse.
Uh-huh.
And I was very fascinated by that. But even as a little kid with my sister playing Bach, Brahms, and Beethoven all the time, I would end up sitting under the piano. It was a grand piano, Steinway. And I'd sit under the piano and listen to her practice for hours and hours. And to this day, I am still very partial to piano music. I still listen. Even when I'm working out, I'm listening to Bach.
I love it. Mm-hmm.
Preludes and the inventions, and I don't know, it's something just really connects with me with piano music.
It's a very interesting instrument in so many ways, you know. I wonder now, because when you discovered the synthesizer, it was based on a piano keyboard. Was that one of the things that drew you to it?
Well, the synthesizer really is not based on a keyboard. A keyboard.
Well, the interface is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but it was sort of a side motion in a certain way, because it's simply a controller that changes voltage in a stepped way.
Mm-hmm.
And it drove people to saying, "Oh, it's an organ." It's and we've treated it that way for many, many years as well, by creating a polyphonic keyboard. And it went from switched on Bach to where we are now. I mean, it's an evolving instrument, but we have ceased with the Eurorack designs, much like what we see here in this room, which is a big rack of gear with its own power supply and 110 volt things in the back and everything, or stuff that's on board inside of Pro Tools and so forth. We're starting to leave, hopefully, and completely leave the concept of it's just something that adapts to old song forms that are fixed pitches from one note to the next, and to live in a 12-note tone row.
Were you attracted to
a lot of that stuff?
Were you attracted to alternative controllers? Like the Don Buchla stuff and things like that?
I like sequencing. I like free play.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the music from TONTO was the first piece. Aurora ditched the whole concept of 8-bar phrases, and sort of freed ourselves to move into a much freer form of making music. And now it's 60 years later, and 60 years later.
Amazing, huh?
Yeah, it's 60 years later, and we're finally beginning to free ourselves from totally keyboard-oriented, past-oriented song forms. It's been an evolution. I mean, you think about Bach or even earlier music for keyboard, where the scales weren't tempered. Okay.
Right.
A lot of pipe organs weren't in tempered scales. It was Bach who wrote the well-tempered clavier. But we play. Glenn Gould played. He's stardust now, sadly. But he played Bach on a pianoforte, which wasn't invented when Bach wrote that music. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's been a constant evolution in musical instruments. I mean, if you even look at the early piano from the 1800s, like
completely different,
for example,
yeah,
which is a brand that was built overseas. The piano itself has a big evolution. A lot of the music that's written today cannot be performed on an early instrument.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, and the reason I asked you that question was because I know that you were at one point, you had this sort of epiphany in discovering the synthesizer and really finding your voice with that. And I wondered what it was that drew you to it. Was it the interface? Was it the...
Well, my first draw to it was need. I was making a feature motion picture in New York in a very scary way called Chow Manhattan. And it was I somehow had fallen in. I came back. I was living in the East Village. I'd been in the Army for a couple of years, where I'd been trained as a cinematographer. I wore basically a combat camera that was supposed to go into the field and photograph people fighting with each other, and combat cameras. And I became very facile and fascinated with it. My love of photography followed me from my grade school days. My original camera was an Argus. It was from the drugstore. It was a little box camera made of black plastic with gray buttons. And I was always taken with it. And I had a choice. I could wait to be drafted and go to Vietnam and die, which would be I wouldn't be here, right? Mm-hmm. Or I could enlist. And if I enlisted, they would allow me to go to the motion picture and photography school at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and to be trained as a combat photographer.
Rough choice, huh?
Yeah, rough
Yeah.
choice.
Mhm.
So I took the rough choice, and since I loved photography, the school was very vigorous, and we learned no history, no aesthetics, none of that. But what we learned was how to aim the camera correctly and how to use any camera under field conditions.
Useful skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when I came back out of the service, I'd already been living for a year on the economy in Stuttgart, where I'd been stationed. And I was working as a still photographer. So when I came back, I decided to settle in the East Village in New York, and got a floor through walk up on the 5th floor, just around the corner from the Fillmore. And
I know the neighborhood well.
Fillmore's opening thing. I walked over there, watched Kip Cohen and run around over there, smoke joints, and watch them set up for the Jefferson airplane.
I love it. It was one of my first concerts, in fact.
Yeah.
I lived at, I had an apartment at 2nd Avenue in St. Mark's Place, so
you
right
were
around the
neighbor?
corner. Yeah, although I think I was probably a few years after you, but yeah.
I lived between 2nd and 3rd,
Mhm.
2nd and 3rd Avenue.
But there was a lot going on in that neighborhood, amazing times.
Transitioning from an old Jewish neighborhood into a hippie paradise.
Mm-hmm.
And one night, getting back to your original question, one night I found myself drifting around, cruising around the Lower East Side, and it was already becoming active in La Mama, which was a theater on the 2nd floor. Ellen Stewart was the impresario, and a lot of major people came out of her theater, which was on the 2nd floor, directly across the street from the Fillmore.
Uh-huh.
So it was like a really hippie community. It had a beautiful Jewish delicatessen down there, pastrami sandwiches, and lots of Jewish people hovering around and everything. And I walked into a club. I heard this strange bleeping and blooping one night. And my principle in making Chow Manhattan was to give the cameras to the artists themselves and bypass the entire hierarchy of filmmaking.
That's brave.
You know, I could go to like Warner Brothers or something in New York. Hi, I just got out of the Army, and I'm a combat photographer, and I need a job. Well, young man, you can't get a job without being in the union. So
right.
Toddle over to the union, and they say, you're a combat photographer, huh? Well, we can't employ you and give you a union card unless you have a job.
Right.
So it was all about protecting the guys that were there. So anything you did, you had to do on your own. And Andy was doing a lot of stuff at the factory.
Andy Warhol.
With the news cameras and making films like Empire and a whole bunch of other stuff. Never paid anybody. Everyone was hanging out and using drugs and stuff. And vitamin shots from the wonderful Dr. Bishop. I walked into that nightclub, but I first given all the artists, the people who came over from the factory, I had a little budget, so I was able to pay people, which was very attractive. I signed Edie Sedgwick for $800. I gave her her first contract.
It's a small fortune.
And we started to make a film based on the life of the underground in Manhattan, in New York. Max's Kansas City and the factory and the makers and the breakers and the drug addicts and the dealers and all of that stuff. But I gave cameras, which are now much more portable. I gave the cameras to the artists themselves and said, we're going to get rid of all this middle thing, union, this, that, and the other. And I made friends with this guy at a company called Gordon Audio. And he said, you can have any, I really like what you're doing. You can rent anything you want and deliver it if you need help, blah, blah, blah. And it was the time when the Arriflex 35, I was going to give young creatives the professional tools. And the professional tools were Arris and Motorola's, Moviolas and stuff. So I ended up with a studio through a variety of means. You start shooting commercials with a guy named Don Cohen, who was an established cinematographer. We went uptown and we built this little studio on 47th Street, and it was like flies to honey, the bees to the honey. And I scored and signed Edie. That's a long story in itself. I ended up living with her after she set fire to her apartment at the Chelsea Hotel.
Oops.
Yeah, we used to call her the Q-tip because both her hands were bandaged. And I had to have somebody around to help her at the bathroom and bathe her and everything else because she couldn't do anything for herself. She was in pretty miserable shape. But nonetheless, we ended up with cameras and stuff, and we started shooting a film called Chow Manhattan. In the process, I wanted to think about doing music for it. The alternative would be a studio like this. The union players come in, the union players go out, the guys write the contracts, the engineers do the engineering, and up is louder, and everybody's doing things. And I wanted to see about how I could bring the music closer. And I walked into a club that evening, and the club was called Cerebrum. And strangely enough, who built Cerebrum? John Stork. It was one of his first.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it was one of his first efforts.
Uh-huh.
And sitting under the DJ booth was a synthesizer, pieces of a Moog synthesizer that had been fire damaged. And but nonetheless, they were playing it in between the music sets. And it was doing its own thing. You know, it was kind of like fucking itself. You know? And I think that's where the expression "go fuck yourself" comes from.
I see. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
little known history facts here, folks.
yeah, a little But when I heard it, like a light bulb went off in my head, and I said, "This is the way I can make music for the film, utilizing the people who are around me." One of those people was a guy named Gino Pincerchio, who was a model, a gay model, killer look at Ford agency model, but he was also a graduate of Juilliard or Manhattan, I don't remember which. He could read a piece of music upside down. And when I showed him the synthesizer, he'd come over as part of the gaggle from Andy's. He saw it, he went crazy, and we said, "This is the way to make music for Chow Manhattan." And once I got the synthesizer, Bob Moog came down with it, and I went to the NAMM convention. It was at the old Coliseum on Columbus Circle.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and Walter Sear, we went on to have a wonderful studios in New York. Walter also had a tuba factory, but that's another story for another day.
Okay.
He was a champion tuba player.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And he showed up, and he showed up with a henchman to help him move the synthesizer named Tom Fly. And Tom Fly went on to become the major engineer in his own right, record plant chief engineer for many years.
Oh, that's where I know the name. Okay.
And also did all the recording for the Dead and a lot of stuff. But he started with me. He was also in Chow Manhattan. He played a priest and a chauffeur in Chow Manhattan. But we started making music there. And slowly but surely, I really suddenly realized that I had found my voice in music. I was never going to be a great concert pianist, and certainly not a cellist by any shape or form. But it sent me on my journey because I found that I could leave the reality of a tone row. I could create sounds that people never heard before. And I found it fantastic. The first record I made with it was a record I produced with a band called Lothar and the Hand People.
I remember them. Yeah.
Yeah, you remember Machines? People are still playing that song.
Yeah.
If you listen to Machines and then you listen to Devo to like Whip It, you'll see that there's a kind of a strange relationship between the two.
There is a continuum there. Yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
So I worked with the band and we did it. We recorded a lot of it on a 4-track in my little studio, an Ampex 440B. And then we went over to another studio where there was an 8-track and finished overdubbing over there and mixing. And the record came out on Capitol, although they were very excited, but what we came up with, they didn't really understand what we were doing in a lot of ways. I don't think the album did very well, but didn't do badly. It made some noise, but it really was my first foray into electronica. And I loved it. I ended up also making TV commercials, which
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of, there were a few people who were doing TV
Yeah.
commercials when the synthesizer came out.
Any batteries or whatever it was.
Uh-huh.
Bing bong boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did that. Pepto-Bismol, Ford Torino, Trans-Caribbean Airways, which is just for trans people, I guess.
Of course. Yeah.
Yes.
Who were going to the Caribbean, of course. Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were very involved in the development of synthesis from the Lothar and the Hand People phase, the phase where people didn't really know what the hell to do with it, to the point where it became a viable musical statement and then an art form in itself and part of the vernacular. And, part of that was TONTO, for example. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of that with your partnership with Malcolm Cecil and how that all evolved.
Well, I was obviously the Tower of Babel that I built at Centaur Production with Chow Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Finally got to a place where it self-destructed, basically, before I was able to finish. The original Chow Manhattan was shot in black and white,
Uh-huh.
and I liked it very much. I liked the kind of vibe of New York in black and white.
It's classic.
It was classic.
Yeah.
It was correct. But it got wandering away, and finally I ran out of money after a huge inflection of cash from my family. My father and mother stood behind me. God bless them. I never really thought that they would ever fly in it, but my father became Mr. Verdecchio in Chow Manhattan, the mob.
Really?
Mr.
Oh, I love it.
Verdecchio. It's my father,
Very supportive.
There
Yeah.
you go, he said. Now look here, Mario.
Uh-huh.
You're just a wart on the ass of progress. If you don't take care of your business with me, I'm going to take care of you. Mario, 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 what are you doing? He would write lines like that just off the top of his head. He constantly amazed me.
Uh-huh.
But Chow Manhattan had sort of fallen off the thing. I ran out of money. People were running in every direction. Edie was serious drug issues, and
Yeah, she was a bit of a
she
train
was
wreck.
really
Yeah.
trying to find her way. I was busy, more fascinated with the synthesizer than turns out than I was with Chow Manhattan. And the bottom line was also the synthesizer was a real object. Chow Manhattan was this nefarious
It was a concept.
concept
Yeah.
that was populated by people who were like mice dipped in paint, and you're trying to tell them which way to run on the canvas to
Uh-huh.
take a picture. It was like completely out of control.
Mm-hmm.
But the synthesizer was concrete. It was there. It was in front of me.
You could understand it.
I could understand
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved what it did. And I started, Centaur closed, and I ended up at a place called Broadway Recording, which is in the same building, the Ed Sullivan Theater building, where
Yes. Yes.
on the 7th floor.
I think Howie Schwartz was in there for a while too, wasn't
Howard
he? Yeah.
was there, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It was filled with a little warren of recording studios and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I started to get my feet wet. The guy that owned it was a really old time. His name was Pat Jakes. He was a real old time recording engineer from the water powered days, like really stuff, with slate surfaces and
Uh-huh.
big knobs and things. But he taught me, and he had his first 12-track. It was a Scully.
Oh. Uh-huh.
And Richie Havens was a client, and Tito Puente was a client. And I started making some sounds for them, and people started coming around. And I ended up selling a concept to do some religious music, Caldera, from Caldera, for, would you believe, Buddha Records.
Of course.
What's his name? It was during the time of of Switched On Bach. It was around that time.
I also recall a story that Ed Stasium told me that his band came in there at one point, and you were the engineer, and basically they didn't have a producer, and so you essentially started producing them by default.
Yeah, and Men at Work was the band.
Yeah.
Richie's label, Stormy Forest Records.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you really had a finger in all sorts of things at that point.
Well, I haven't heard from Ed in a long time. He's a very good guy and a really
Wonderful fellow. Yeah.
The one advantage he had over me is when I ended up at media, he was already at media and he understood the console, which to this day was a mystery, because in those days, every major studio built their own console.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Nobody had a Neve or one of these puppies, you know. Everyone built it, and the console at Media Sound had a lid, and you opened it like this. It was like a piano lid, and it was bent in the middle because all the wires hanging off of it. And but I went through Broadway first, and then I got invited to come to Media Sound. Media was where I ended up. I was invited to go there. Media was owned by a group of financiers who also financed Woodstock. So they really understood me because I was really a freak of nature. And you can see, you know, that's a very very puppy picture.
I think that's a very nice photo. Yeah. But tell us about
very proper.
Well, I want to hear about how this evolved into. I think I have a picture of it here. How this evolved into this.
Well, that's a long story off a short tear. I think what happened was I had stayed about a year at Broadway, and then I was learning, and I started to write some electronic music, and I started writing a song, not a song really, it was 27 minutes long, but a soundscape called Aurora. It was very long and very went 1,000 different places. Didn't use keyboards, used the synthesizer itself to create atmospheric.
Just playing with filters and whatnot. Yeah.
It was basically I could transpose the entire instrument from key to key, and had sequencers and stuff going.
So it was art.
Yeah, it was sort of an opus of freedom from John Manhattan and my liberation piece, where I was really learning how to use the 12-track in the console, and I got invited to work at Media. So I packed up my Moog synthesizer. I went to Media Sound, and I was there, I guess, about 6 months, and I had my synthesizer on a gurney, like a hospital gurney. And I was able to roll it out into Studio A, which was sort of an impressive studio, sort of like this place. Impressive in its own way. It was an old church and had the big...
the peaked ceiling and everything.
The apartment building.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, but it had the big roof with the big wooden beams and stained glass windows and everything. So when I went out there dressed like a space cadet with my synthesizer at night and there with the lights on it, it was really, I really was on the bridge of the Enterprise. And I loved it. And one night I came in to the studio to work, and the console was wide open. And there was this really skinny guy with a huge black Q-tip head thing with a tool belt around his waist. And he turned around, and he looked like an owl with these big glasses. It was Malcolm. And I said, you must be the new chief engineer here. And he said, yes, I am. And you must be the guy who has that thing in the ISO booth. And one thing,
a friendship was born immediately, no doubt. Yeah,
I would use the downtime at night to write. Okay, and I'm doing the commercials during the day. And I'm making enough money, being that I was completely broke. To I had the synthesizer already, and that was all paid off and everything. But I was making enough money to do some couch surfing, and to sort of get settled down. And I think around that time, I had just moved into the Ansonia Hotel, where we
luxury
before shot the pool scenes for Chow Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And now the Ansonia became the Continental Bass, where Bette Midler used to sing with her keyboard player.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's his name?
Barry Manilow.
Barry Manilow.
Barry Manilow.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Uh-huh.
Barry, and they called her Bathhouse Betty.
Yep.
And I would walk down from there to 57th Street and back at night in the snow.
Nice.
4 a.m. with the park on. But I walked in, there was Malcolm in the studio, and we really hit it off. And we made a deal. I said, if you show me how to really get around on the sport a little bit better, he said, I'll do that, but you have to teach me how to play the synthesizer. It wasn't Tonto then, it was just the synthesizer.
It was just the Moog.
And but once we started working together, I played him Aurora, and he said, "Oh, this is a really interesting piece of music." I said, "Malky, I'm not even sure this is music." And he said, "Well, it's music, all right." And Malcolm was not only a superb technician, but a superb musician. He could really play. He was in a line band at a place called Ronnie Scott's in London.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
They had a back
legendary,
line, right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Legendary. Players used to come and play there. They'd come from New York or from the East Coast, and they couldn't afford to travel with the band, so Ronnie Scott's had a back line.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And Malcolm was in the back line, and he, what was the name of the band? The Blues.
Was that the same band that John Mayall came through?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of players came through there, including Beck, including Herbie Mann.
Sure.
Including a whole bunch of American jazzers.
Yep.
And he was he played with Lonnie Hall here, and not Lonnie. What's his name? Don't forget his
pianist.
Huh?
Pianist?
No.
So I was thinking Lonnie Liston Smith, but that might not be the guy.
Not
Okay.
important, but he was out there playing with people at night a bit. And we really fell in with each other, and we started talking about how we could make the synthesizer a real-time instrument. In the meantime, we started cooking on writing some music, and he said, Aurora's a little on the long side. It's like 27 minutes long. And he said, all it needs is a little judicious editing. Right, judicious editing. The song ended up 7 minutes long.
That's pretty judicious. Yeah.
Judicious.
Yeah.
But we started working together, and we had this wonderful Chinese, Japanese, Spanish restaurant across the street from the studio where we would foregather at night. The food was terrible, but it tasted really good because they filled it up with monosodium glutamate. It used to leave me flushed, very red in the face.
Yeah.
A little feverish. But we'd go over there at 7 o'clock. They had paper tablecloths. And we started talking about how we could get all of the synthesizer to be more playable as a real-time instrument. And I slowly, with my earnings and stuff, started buying more components and stuff. And we would draw our concept of how to create a central brain. Malcolm sort of came up with the concept of how to deal with control voltages and busing. And we came up with a design to be able to control a multitude of synthesizers. Of course, now by this time, the synthesizer was on several tables, all wheeling around, all wires all over the place and everything. It was like 12 feet long. And I was using it during the day. I'd use just a little piece of it because it was becoming more and more complicated. But nonetheless, it was working. And we started writing Zero Time, our first album. And that led to a lot of collaboration, a lot of work at night when the studios were empty. And one night we were working on it, and who walked in the back door of Studio A but Herbie Mann? And Herbie says to Malcolm, what are you doing here? The last time I saw you, you were at Ronnie Scott's. He says, well, I'm chief engineer here now. And and Herbie says, well, what are you doing? And Malcolm pointed to the synthesizer. I'm doing this. He says, you doing something like that? He said, yeah. Then he left and he went downstairs to Studio B to work with one of his bands. And he told us that he had a vanity label called Embryo.
Ah,
Right. Oh, he was playing on off nights with Jim Hall,
okay.
guitar player. Name escapes me. At 85, I'm allowed to have some escapes.
Oh, absolutely.
So he said, Kirby pointed to it and he said, what's that? And Malcolm says, well, don't knock it until you hear it. And then Herbie went down to work with his band. He had an embassy. He had a vanity label on Atlantic called Embryo Records.
Uh-huh.
So in the meantime, I pulled the synthesizer out of the ISO booth and put it in the studio with the lights on it, although I wasn't playing it particularly because we were playing recordings.
Mm-hmm.
But it was there, and it looked like, we're at it a little bit. And we played Aurora for him, and he flipped out. And
that's how you got the record deal.
It sounded like the end of the universe.
Uh-huh.
There was no bars, there's no returning, there's no ABC bridge. It was just a huge soundscape.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up as the first piece on our album.
Which was
Zero Time.
Tonto's Expanding Headband.
Right. Malcolm and I started using it, and then we ended up with an album. But in the process of doing that, I had come up with a name when I was using. I think I was on a peyote trip in my friend's apartment when I was couch surfing, and I was standing there in a rather chilly morning in my baggy underwear at like 6 a.m, and no one was around. I was eating cold asparagus from a can, one asparagus at a time. And I said to myself, I think we need a name for the band. And I said, I got it. Tonto's Expanding Headband. But we ended up with an album called Zero Time, which by that time we had come up, Tonto was going to be the name for the instrument.
Uh-huh.
Then Malcolm came up with the idea of using that name Tonto to create an acronym from it, which we really had to reach for, which became the original Neo-Timbral Orchestra.
I love that.
That came out of my psychedelic brain when I was coming down from a peyote trip, I think it was the night before. Like I say, I was standing there in my underwear in the chill eating asparagus, and I came up with the name.
Brilliant.
Why? I have no idea. Okay.
It worked.
Yeah, it worked. And so we had it. And when Herbie came on the scene, we were already calling it Tonto.
Uh-huh.
And of course, Stevie Wonder heard the album. It made some real interesting noises all over the place. And there was already Switched on Bach and a whole bunch of other synthesizer things starting to happen around town, and people were curious. Steve heard our album and got curious, and on Memorial Day weekend, 1971, he showed up at our front door with a friend of Malcolm's, Ronnie Blanco, our fellow bass player. And basically, we went in and he tried it a couple of times. He said there's something broken. He tried playing chords on it. And Malcolm said, no, Steve, that's not the way. You have to think of the synthesizer more like a horn or a saxophone, where it plays one note or one event. That's the reason I have 4 keyboards, because I can play 4 notes 4 events simultaneously.
I love it.
And that's why we started collecting synthesizers of all kinds.
Because they were all monophonic.
They were all monophonic, but whether it was ARP or a Moog module or Oberheim module or a Surge module, And slowly we started pooling our money and stuff, and we started buying modules from Serge, and Malcolm is designing stuff. Malcolm designed the first joystick, for example, because we wanted to play in the cracks. The problem with playing R&B on a synthesizer is the intervals are always
right.
next
You
to
couldn't
the
get those
other,
blue
and they're all
notes.
tempered.
Yeah.
But in blues, you could pull on the guitar
Right.
bridge to bend the notes.
Yeah.
Even the clavinet pushed, the tines got pushed by, the strings got pushed by the tines on the end of the key.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yeah.
clavinet also sort of bent the...
You could do those blue notes. Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, Steve had a clavinet with a bender bar on it.
Uh-huh.
So that was the way to be able to play in the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And what Malcolm did by inventing the joystick was to be able to bend the notes.
Right.
And that was the first joystick.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm invented that, and Stevie used it on Boogie on Reggae Woman, was the first use of the pitch bender.
I love it.
It was filtration, and to the side it was pitch up and down.
Uh-huh.
And a whole bunch of rubber bands in it. So when you let go of it, the stick would
It would come back.
neutral.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we were making music with it, and when Steve heard it, he wanted to use it. We started recording that weekend. I think we recorded maybe 15 or 16 songs, maybe more.
Now, this clip here is, in fact, I guess you guys moved into the record plant at some point.
Get these pictures.
I've got them all over the place. I do my research. This was basically from when you guys moved into the record plant.
Right. That was at the record plant.
Mm-hmm.
But once we started going with Steve, it became we became fixated completely, and really, honestly, we left the planet.
You were really strapped to a rocket ship at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. There was nothing else in my life that mattered.
Mm-hmm.
There was it was the Ansonia, trudging back and forth at night. 7 o'clock, Steve would walk in. Malcolm would come down from the shop. We'd just a little bit before that, we'd go across the street and have our Chinese Spanish dinner, and then we'd come back and we'd start recording, and eventually moved the synthesizer down to Studio B because that was easier for Steve to get around, and also the boys bought a 16-track Ampex MM1000, and the board was all adapted and jury rigged to take 16 buses instead of 12 buses or 8 buses.
Mm-hmm.
And we were down there and set up every instrument Stevie could think of he wanted to use, got them all hot, got a microphone that we could stay hot, that we didn't have to push a button to talk to him. So the window in the studio has kind of disappeared. And when we were monkeying around with stuff in the studio and fixing the drum sounds and stuff, Steve would sit there playing the piano and writing songs. And it became a very interesting thing. The only time we ever stopped is when Steve went out on the road. And then we found to pay attention to other things like our album and working with other clients and stuff. I was working at that time with Richie Havens a lot. And he's a wonderful man. I miss him. He was
a huge talent. Yeah.
I remember him opening Woodstock. He was the first act.
Amazing talent, and one of the few guys who could wrap his thumb around the neck of a guitar. Just amazing.
He was making, when I first met him, he was making this record with another producer, Mark Roth. And they were recording at RKO on 35 millimeter mag film, and they had like 15 or 20 dubbers all running in sync, mono dubbers.
Wow.
That's how it was started. And Richie was using that. I used to go over after night at Centaur at my studio just to sit there and to watch this happen.
You guys were really pushing the edge technically, and that's, I think, another point that I really want to stress here is that the art and the technology really influenced each other hand in hand. The stuff that you were doing with Stevie really technically was stretching the art, and the art was stretching the technology.
I like to say technology drives the art.
Yeah.
And the technology is driving the art today with AI.
Absolutely.
And as far as AI is concerned, I say I embrace it with both arms. I give it a bear hug. I want to learn as much as I can about it. I want to learn about the new paintbrush.
It's another tool.
Yeah.
It's another instrument, and I agree with you. And you know, I think for a lot of artists now, you know, a lot of artists are afraid of it. But I think what we are finding is that the people that are afraid of it actually don't understand what it is and what it's not.
Exactly. I think it's another instance of the computer becoming a musical instrument.
Yes, exactly.
And I saw it when I started playing TONTO.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we were doing. Very nice.
I rather like this. These were the 3 landmark albums that you guys worked
I
on
took the picture
with
of the
Stevie.
talking book. I took that cover.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I love it. Those are really wonderful photos as well. And I think you know, everything that you guys did with Stevie was really so cutting
You know
edge.
why? Because we really care.
Uh-huh.
And to this day, I love Stevie. We're not talking really very much these days anymore. He's in his 70s. I'm in my 80s. He has his other worlds to contend
Sure.
with a multitude of children. I think he has a tribe.
Pretty much.
Family.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love him and I care about him. And I think when I see things that are not good for him, I still feel protective toward him.
Uh-huh.
He's a gentle soul. He's not perfect, but nobody in this world is perfect. But he has done a lot for us. And I
Yes.
think also the big dovetail I have with him is also revolves around civil rights. And,
Which is another thing that I wanted to get into,
you know,
the stuff that you guys have done.
In little high school when I was a boy. And I was a boy at one time, although I look in the mirror, I can't believe I was. But I was. And I went to school, flew the United Nations flag under the American flag.
Uh-huh.
And all people are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Was a time in the 50s when Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. And little black girls were going to school in the South being escorted by big white marshals with guns.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And I learned all about that civil rights movement. So when Steve showed up, suddenly I realized that the two of us were walking the same path, because he was writing songs like Living for the City, which was about that kind of thing. Mr. Know-It-All, which was about Nixon.
Well, and Stevie was responsible for Martin Luther King Day.
Yes, he was.
For him making his birthday a
Happy
national
Birthday.
holiday. Yes.
Happy birthday song for Martin Luther King.
And you guys really did so much to drive that movement. Yeah.
I realized also I came from a group of sort of I'm living on the outside, being a gay man.
Yeah.
I don't hide it. I don't care, you know. But I realized too that I was living in a minority group that it was uncool,
Especially in those days.
forbidden and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
And but I realized that Steve and I, although we were 10 years apart, we were really walking the same path.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you did so much to bring that to.
Yeah. One of Steve's greatest gifts was his ability to write about civil rights and to stand up for it. And that made me even more committed to him in a lot of ways, because I felt it. And Electric Lady, of course, was in the heart of the East Village, in the heart of the West Village.
Exactly.
It was in the middle of the gay community. I mean,
Yeah.
Stonewall was around the corner from Electric Lady.
Yeah.
And it was an Electric Lady that we met, really formally, John Stork, who got on our trip and was the person who was responsible for actually building TONTO.
Well, you know, and John actually said something to me once that I thought was really prescient also. He said, you know, a lot of it really was the times, because there was so much optimism at that point in time that we could change the world.
Yeah, we felt very powerful about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was living in the revolution. And Steve really was a major mover in that. And I have to continually doff my hat to him for achieving that.
Yes.
And to be able to live his life with him in his world for a space of 3 or 4 years. it really changed my point of view a lot too, but also reinforced my firm belief in civil rights.
It's
being as woke as possible.
Yeah, and one of the things that I noticed, and this happened a lot back in the 60s and 70s, was that 3 years was really, so much was crammed into 3 years. The same way that, if we look at the time span of the Beatles' evolution, so much evolved in less than 10 years, and looking at what you guys accomplished in 3 years, musically, technologically, it seems like a lot. I mean, it's such a compressed schedule. Yeah. Did you sleep?
Also, during part of that, we were also working with the Isley Brothers.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And Billy Preston.
Yeah. Oh, I have a clip here
Serena
from
Wright and Minnie Riperton, and we were doing tons of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I love this. This is another great shot right here.
Yeah, I have. That's in the book.
Uh-huh.
That's me and Malcolm at in Studio B.
That is Studio B, yeah.
Talking about immersive. That was the immersive studio.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It was a time when we moved out from New York. Steve wanted to be signed with Motown, although he had many protestations that he didn't want to do it and stuff, and he was egging Barry on. But Steve and Motown, they were born together.
And this is when Motown had moved out to L.A. Yeah.
Motown moved out here. And 64 Sunset.
Right.
And
right up the street from where we are now.
Strangely enough, Devo's rehearsal studio was next door.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do I have?
But
oh, here we go. I love this shot right here. This is the two of them in a tuxedo.
Yeah, the one and only time. I should have gotten some little light bulbs for it and stuff in my little boutonniere with the flower.
I think it's lovely. I think it's
water. I'd be perfect.
But the both of you kind of look like, what the hell are we doing here? Oh my God,
exactly. We were really studio rats.
Yeah, yeah. I have a great clip here somewhere. I want to see if I can find it. Here we go. Now this is classic right here. I want to play a little clip of this.
That picture.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to some very talented people that have come into my life and sort of given me a whole new scope of music. And their names are Bob and Malcolm, the TONTO Monsters. Give them a big round of applause. Yeah, and what you see behind us, this is TONTO. And this is a machine that they've been working on for about 5 years. And it's a keyboard instrument, it's synthesizer and all kind of gadgets, and they can explain it better to you. And we're gonna play some music that'll just create itself, okay? So Bob, you wanna explain some things about it?
I think we should just sort of get started.
All right, well,
into place
see, first we have to push the button, right?
Right.
Okay, push the button. All right, you ready for this? Let's speed it up a little bit. See, we can speed it up without changing the key. Check it out, right there. what you gotta do is
I want to understand the evolution now of what happened with Stevie and how you guys then sort of went your separate ways, but you've always stayed in touch, obviously. But I know that really for you this was career shaping in a lot of ways, wasn't it?
Yeah, it made me happy. It gave me a leg up. But life went on after Steve.
Uh-huh.
Of
Of course.
But
In fact, you did some really amazing stuff after Steve.
yeah, the important thing is always to stay current and not dwell in the past and woe is me and.
Oh no! In fact, if anything,
I don't buy that at all. I'm starting to fool around now a lot with AI, and I think there's a way that this will also save the music business, but it's going to definitely evolve into another format. We're in a major period of transition. Spotify and Tidal and all these other file sharing programs, they're going to have to sooner or later admit to the reality of having to pay the artists and not just the top drawer 5% that the majors can exploit because of the live performance, And I think with AI on board now, we're going to even see more live performance, more arena shows, more live performances where there are not AI predictive musical patterns that repeat and never change. That is going to stop because what we bring as human beings is, I call it rubato, basically, speeding up and slowing down in music. And I mean, my mind's eye is, I remember seeing a film of Leonard Bernstein conducting the New York Philharmonic with his face.
Yes.
Making just motions with his face and the orchestra responding to it, which is kind of really an interesting thing. But what does the conductor do? The conductor, if he's doing a Rachmaninoff piano concerto, for example, and he's conducting the orchestra, he's telling the orchestra to go faster or slower. He's holding the orchestra back. He's giving them motions that emulate his feelings. And the orchestra becomes one under his baton. And it speeds up and it slows down. And it brings a kind of unpredictable humanity to the orchestra. And the problem with AI is there is no point of view and there's no humanity. So the thing is that AI has to have a soul, and the soul is the human player.
Well, let's talk about what AI really is, which is machine learning, right? And the point here is that
look backwards.
Exactly. But if you think about it, as with anything else, if you put a piece of technology in front of a truly creative person, the first thing they're going to do is look at it and say, how can I make this do something it wasn't intended for? That is what every artist does with a really interesting piece of technology. You think about when the harmonizer came out. What did we do with it? The first people who used it, they said, how can I fuck with this, and make it do something different?
I was fucking with it. It came in a Halliburton suitcase.
Yeah.
It was about this big.
Yep. And this happens with so many, I think, pieces of technology. And your work with the synthesizer was a perfect example of that. And I think if we look at AI, I mean, first of all, it's not going to go away. You're not going to put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's here. And the people who are, there are always going to be hacks who are going to use it to, let's say, create some prefab something or other that's just a regurgitation of other work. But there's also going to be people who use it in a creative way.
I'll tell you what I see happening on both fronts. On the regurgitation front, okay, I see people processing a piece of music and then taking the piece of music that they processed and processing that again.
Yes,
okay?
Yes, exactly.
And again, and again, and again, until the music becomes totally homogeneous and and totally predictive.
And soulless. Yes. Yeah.
What makes the music have soul is rubato, is the ability to play loud and soft based on the feelings of the moment,
Yep.
the aliveness.
Emotion.
Yeah, emotion.
Human emotion.
And the ability to change the performance. And just to see somebody hunch over a keyboard or do something that is not predictive and not repeatable is what separates the men from the boys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We want to have, as I call it, embodied music played directly by people.
Absolutely. Which, you know, now I want to bring this back around to something because I think this is an interesting point. You have found artists to work with, and even in your own work, that have taken this and completely flipped it on its ear. Like, for example, let's talk about your work with Devo. You know, now Devo essentially took a quote unquote robotic type of music and they completely humanized it and made it into something completely different.
Well,
and
they changed the sound of the instrument.
Exactly.
But Devo, I'll tell you, strangely enough, it kind of related also to Steve. Devo was formed at Ohio State.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And it was formed because at Ohio State is where the National Guard killed a whole bunch of students.
Yes.
Right.
Kent State.
And yeah.
Mhm.
What was it?
Kent State.
Kent State,
Mhm.
right. And Jerry and Mark were in the canteen when that happened
Mm-hmm.
at Kent. They were art students.
They were art students. And art students make the greatest musicians. You know, look at Talking Heads. So many.
And look at Mark Mothersbaugh.
Exactly.
Graphic artist.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I had the best time of my life working with those guys because I really had, see, this room has speakers here.
Mm-hmm.
Studio B had another set of speakers like this over there.
Uh-huh. Right. It was wired in quad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had quad, it was called quadraphonic.
Yes.
And quad was, when we first moved to the record plant, they'd say, we'll build a studio any way you want it. So I said, me and Malcolm said, we want a quad studio because they're making quad records, Quadrophenia.
Yes.
The English were really behind it.
Yes.
Phillips and Decca.
There was a studio here that had been built for Herbie, the old Kendon studio, which was also wired in quad. I worked in there for a while.
Yeah,
it's now Encore.
I worked in that studio. We did Isley Brothers in that studio. I did Billy Preston in that studio.
That's right. You did a quad record with Billy, didn't you? You did a quad record with Billy, didn't you?
No, I never did a quad. But what we used the quad for was for recording, and for monitoring.
Okay.
Because I could bring Steve or Jerry and the band into the control room and put the monitors on in quad, and we had a quad monitor section, and I would put the background vocals over there and one guitar over here and a synthesizer over there.
I love it.
The lead vocal over here and stuff. And we were able to be immersed in the music, and we recorded that way. We tracked that way. But when it came time to mixing, we tried mixing. I tried mixing Superstition at that time in the quadraphonic, and it was a miserable failure.
Really?
And the other problem with the quadphonic was everyone had to buy a special cartridge for their turntable.
Yeah.
And they had to double their speakers and amplifiers.
Yep.
So it never really flew full force. And basically trying to put quad in vinyl, they had a system that was called Sansui QS.
I remember that. Yeah. It was a miserable failure.
We tried to fool around with it. But the great gift of it was to be able to use it as a tool in recording, as a creative tool to put the musician in the same space as the music, not as a perspective.
Right, but surrounded by it.
The march, but the music here.
Right.
But to have the music occupy the same space as the performer. And that really is one of the reasons that we did a bit of that, a good bit of that with Steve. But with Devo, it was full on. And that's one of the reasons the records, my all right records sound so dry, because reverb kind of takes its space, distance. I want things confrontational.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
close.
Yeah, I was going to mention that to you, that there's a certain presence to a lot of your recordings that are very in your face in that sense.
That's very on purpose. And part of it was I was able to really reach into the band and get them to perform and maintain the elements and stop trying to overdub, decorate the music too much, but to keep it simple and direct.
You did that with Oingo Boingo too.
Yes.
And that was even more so because that was a much larger band. A lot of going on at the same time.
Oingo Boingo was a very sort of specialized, very ethereal band. I don't think it made as much contact outside the West Coast as Devo, which is very much more visually oriented. Oingo Boingo had one shtick, and that was it.
Yes.
Put on your raincoats, go into the first 10 rows, they squirt water and stuff into the audience.
Although they were a great launching pad for Danny Elfman. Very definitely,
Danny was an interesting guy. And I sort of lost touch with him. I don't really relate with him. We did one album together. It was the last album on A&M, and A&M didn't really see any point in promoting it.
Was Dead Man's Party? Or what was it called? Something like that.
Something like that. I don't remember. But it had some really interesting music on it. But I went on to doing some other bands where they had some really exciting music, like Shadowfax.
Oh gosh, yeah, I forgot about them.
Yeah, but I did that with the first spatializing tools called the bass processor, the Bedini Audio Spatial Environment.
Oh yeah.
And, that record is recorded with a lot of that technology, where I was really striving to get the music to float in space and to really occur in your head. You know, now everything is on headphones, delivered on headphones. We lack this physical concept, which we get in live performance now.
Yes.
I think that's part of the reason that people go to concerts, is to have that experience. But the recording experience has become a little bit more cerebral, I guess you might call it. And it is not the primary medium for performance, really, except when we move into the world of electronica, which we are now rapidly moving. I guess the first thing we learn as children when we speak is by imitating other people. And I think we're using AI in sort of the same way in its infancy in music, by trying to imitate the past.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a violin section. This is a horn section, blah, blah, blah. I did that very well on Tall Ships, the music I did for Tall Ships, the film I made and produced. Well, Danny was involved with that too. And, but that music we made for that was all electronic and done in my studio. Right? But it sounds totally like a live orchestra. But this is 10, 12 years ago now, right? And it was totally imitative of a live orchestra, and it was terrific. But that's looking backwards again, you know, and I think I want to look forwards. I want to be the conductor of my orchestra. I want to be the guy who decides the rubato. I want to, when I hold the stick up, I want them to be able to play louder and softer and slow down a little bit. We're coming to the bridge. We're going to slow this thing down a little bit. And it has movement that will never be repeated in another performance.
Which is exactly, you know, I mean, if you think about it.
Part of
yes. And if you
have to dovetail that with its ability to remember patterns and things, but it's not. We're capable of using it in an imitative way. Here's the London Symphony Orchestra on one level, but there's another level where we're floating in space in a spaceship, and we're theremin land and instruments that aren't instruments until the sounds fall out of a loudspeaker.
Well, you know what, but you mentioned something now that I think is really, really interesting, because if you think back to the era before recorded music, the only way to experience music was to be there, right? I mean, you know, we had sheet music and everything, but every performance was unique. And
absolutely.
And now you're talking about essentially using AI to do exactly that, to make every performance unique, so that if you weren't there, you know, you could hear a recording of it, but it's not the same because every single time,
has to be conducted. Has to be connected.
Yes.
It needs to be connected connected to the tip of the conductor's baton. It needs to be able to flow and to be able to be regulated in a positive way.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to move together, and we're going to have new music, and it's going to be very different and stuff that I don't expect. I don't expect to hear people listening to Tommy Dorsey right now or Glenn Miller, right? It was another time. I mean,
sure.
Music, when we were recording Glenn Miller in those big bands, we used 2 or 3 mics for the whole band.
If you were lucky, yeah.
And the highest it got was like about 60, 65 decibels.
Yeah.
We moved to the record plant. We were running at about 115 decibels.
Pain threshold. Yeah.
3-4 times as loud as it was before. And we had to build these funny shaped rooms like we have here to be able to deal with high level audio with speakers, that you could live in the cabinet is so big.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This room is designed for high level audio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's what we did. And now the high level audio is moved outside onto the stage to the Coliseum, and the recorded music is moving into our ears on headphones, basically.
Yes.
Or in the car where you're sitting. Immersive music, they say immersive because it's non-directional.
Right.
Because you're sitting on the left side of the car anyway. You're not really listening in a sweet spot. I mean, it sounds very nice and everything, but it's another animal. And I think that Dolby Atmos, not so much. I think now Apple has already come up with their own new spatial audio processor, which is...
so are several other companies.
Above Atmos.
Yeah, so are several others.
Atmos is going to go the way of quad.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, we can speculate about that all we want. Of course, now there are so many companies that are creating mixes for Atmos, but I do think that the object-based...
There are a lot of companies that were creating mixes for quad.
Absolutely. And again, it comes down to marketing battles, Beta versus VHS, who's going to win that battle? We don't know that yet. But I will say that there's a lot of different technologies here, but I love the idea of the object-based mixing because I think that,
I think that in many ways, object-based mixing is really the DNA for object-based mixing really is motion pictures.
Yes.
Where you want a jet plane fly over your head, or you want to hear the guys playing ping pong over there, and the sound helps you point your eyes to where
it places you in the middle. Yeah, it places you in the middle.
Audio directs the eyes.
Yes.
With it. But I think, in my experience, now I've mixed in Atmos. In fact, I did mix Whip It in Atmos recently.
I want to hear that.
But the thing is this, people are using it like a gimmick in music, like, listening to ping pong balls when stereo first came out, or the train records and ping pong games.
Yeah, of course. And people are going to do that.
Stereo. I think that there's a certain wanking level to all of that stuff because music is not sort of based on motion. I mean, we have motion in the orchestra. We have violins over here classically.
Yeah.
We have cellos over here. Why? Because when they sit in those positions, the F-holes of the instruments face the audience.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
So we have a certain orientation for that kind of music. It's played as a piano lid opens a certain way, it opens into the audience. The pianist always on the left side and it's on stage. There's a format for it.
Yes.
But I think that even electronic music, too much motion in the music is not organic. It has to be for a reason. You just can't do it for a gimmick.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about using it as a gimmick, but what I like about it is the idea that it does place the listener in the center of the action.
That can be done, and it's been done very, very successfully with channel-based audio, 12.1.4. And in that format, there have been several companies out, one primarily called Here 360, which I I've been involved with for many years. That it's a channel-based system, and the beauty of it is it does not need to be decoded. Where Dolby Atmos, where they're making the money, is selling the decoder, the licensing for the decoders, right? So that they can untwist it when you listen to it based on the number of speakers and a whole bunch of things. It's very complicated. It's complicated to mix, and it's complicated to understand. People are not writing, saying, I'm going to write for Dolby Atmos.
No, of course.
Okay.
But how does that translate to a different room? Let's say I don't have 12 speakers. Because that's the one thing I do like about Atmos.
It depends on the kind of music. If it's electronic music, it's not a reported reality. If it's the Beethoven string quartet with a live quartet in the studio, or an orchestra inside a proscenium arch at Carnegie Hall, it represents a picture of reality with reverb in the back, and you try to create the objective kind of music. But when you free yourself of that with AI and electronica, the music becomes subjective, where it occurs in the same space as the listener.
Sure.
And it's not an instrument till it tumbles out of the loudspeaker. It is not a report of reality.
Of course.
Okay? And that's what we brought with Stevie. We made instruments that never existed in real time and space. They were created for the moment, and then they were gone. Here today, gone tomorrow.
And again, it comes down to being there for that performance, doesn't it?
Yeah, it comes out. But it's recorded that preserved that one performance. But how many times do you listen to? I mean, it's like news. You listen to news. It's old news. It's repeated over and over the same. Yes, you can listen to great performances, and there's some thrilling videos of some of the great Russian young concert pianists these days. Malafev and a whole bunch of these young Russians are doing incredible concertizing, playing live. But people go to see it because it's fascinating, and they could fail in a second. They are on the edge.
Yes.
Okay. And you go to see that, and it's sort of like watching somebody on a trapeze. You might fall off.
Yeah.
But somehow they do it, and they bring the emotion of the moment if they're feeling really up to it, or if they have a cold and maybe not going to play the same emotional level. But we're looking for that immediacy. We're looking for change. We're prey animals. I always used to say, I was parked in a parking lot behind, I think, one of these studios here in town. It was the middle of summer. The door was locked. I was waiting for somebody to come to open the studio. I was looking at just a wall of hedges and trees, and everything was just stable. And I was sitting in the car. The air conditioning was on. And I was just staring out the window at this wall of green. And I never realized wasn't really seeing it after a while. How did I know that? Because the minute I saw a bird fly from one side of this big parking lot to the other and fly across the wall of green, my eyes went to the bird. Okay.
Yeah.
You got to be the bird. The change that comes is what we notice. We notice the change, not the sameness. And the sameness is AI.
Interesting.
Okay?
Yeah.
The bird is the performer. When we see the performer move, we don't know whether the bird's going to go there, down here, over there, over here. Our eyeballs, prey animals.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's what's missing in AI, right? Is the ability to have that embodied performance. And yes, we've used the synthesizer in an imitative way to jump into the space of the past. Yeah, we need a bass sound because the song form is 8 bars of this, 8 bars of that.
Right.
And we repeat the next 8 bars.
Structure.
It has to be in 4/4. God forbid it should be in 6/8 or 12/9 or some weird thing, right? And it has to have 3 of these and 2 of these. It's a song form like a sonata or a symphony, right? But it's a very limited primal song form. Yeah. And we're constantly trying to fit electronica inside that old song form. That's what we did with TONTO, was we left the song form behind.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But with Stevie, we inhabited the song form of R&B. Okay. but it was still 8 bars of Boogie on Reggae Woman. There was a chorus, a verse, a bridge, a harp solo,
Yep.
and so forth.
Yep.
And you get a sample of each, and somehow the lyrics tie these rhythmic patterns together. So, Tonto in some ways lived for that past-oriented jazz place where we thought we could get Tonto to perform as a real-time instrument. A good example is the Billy Preston stuff on the Midnight Special,
Right.
which after that show is when I decided that I did not want to become a live performer. I didn't have the chops for it. I was more interested in being the man behind the curtain.
And Tonto was too unpredictable for live.
Tonto was built as a studio,
Sure.
really had its life as a studio instrument. We played it multitude of things happening at the same time. What's her name? Luciani. Who plays the synthesizer in real time abstractly. I'll think of her name in a second. But my age is kicking in.
Suzanne Ciani?
Yeah, Suzanne Ciani is one who plays freestyle inside electronica.
Yes.
And I think that
And with
is
non-traditional controllers, in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really is where Tonto's roots are.
Yeah.
And she is the mistress of that. In
Oh,
a big
absolutely.
way.
Absolutely.
I have the deepest respect for her.
No question.
For what she's doing. Because
And
I think it's the true destiny of what we're starting to see.
yeah,
I wonder how she's going to embrace AI. I'd be really interested in that.
I'm interested to find that out as well. Yeah.
We were talking about how electronica is taking music to a new place and exposing musicians to new instruments. And we're starting to learn how to play these new instruments. And right now, it's kiddie steps. Right now.
Oh, absolutely. I think we're seeing just the infancy of AI at this point, and I think
want
we're
to see it
seeing.
in 10 years. I don't think we'll recognize music, and I think it'll probably be delivered directly with Neuralink or something like that.
That's pretty
directly
scary.
into our brains.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, where we're going, but we're going there. And I think technology is continuing to drive the art. We are moving inside. The technology is becoming the new musical instrument in itself. It is evolving and turning itself into a musical instrument.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really beautiful.
And I think it's great that you are still, to this day, standing on the edge.
Yeah, I just really feel we're going some good places. I just want to live another 10 years. If I make it another 10 years, I'll be good. There's not much left on my plate, but here I am, 85 years old, still doing it.
Still doing it.
Yeah.
That's what
I've
matters.
turned into more of an author than a recording in the studios. I don't see much business happening in these big studios anymore.
Well, it's
Unfortunately, I mean, this studio is a fucking wet dream. There's no two ways about it.
this studio is a legend in so many ways. Yeah,
This
and
is
I'm
beautiful.
Yeah, but I think for you to be an author at this point is brilliant because you get to not only talk about the past, but you also get to
Yeah, I want to look ahead.
yeah.
I want to embrace AI.
The book is coming out
Book
when?
is coming out.
In May.
The name is
And the name
Shaping
is
Sound.
Shaping Sound.
the name of my new book is Shaping Sounds. I've been working on it for nearly 3 years. It's my adventures in audio and my life in general. And I hope you pick it up and read it. I think you'll enjoy it. It's quite a journey.
And Robert Margouleff, thank you so much for being my
Robert
guest.
Margouleff says thank you very much to you, too. You're a persistent and well-educated man.
Well, thank you.
I'll tell you. You do your homework. I like that.
Thank you. Hey, I'm Daniel Keller. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us each week for Insights in Sound.